What does a persuasive essay look like for the AP German test? So this is just a brief overview to talk about what that might look like, and certainly something that you might be using in a class, especially if it's AP German. So first and foremost, you're given 3 Quellematerial, so Quellematerialien. You'll have a text, Grafik und Hörspiel. So a written text, a graph, and a listening component. And you'll be able to take notes on those. You will have to reference, perhaps use a Zitat, a quote from those sources. So all 3 must be included in your essay. So let's dig a little deeper into how you could structure your persuasive essay auf Deutsch. What not to do. Bitte machen Sie das nicht. Don't have a 5-paragraph essay that has a begin, mit der Schluss, with an intro and a conclusion, in which you have one paragraph that's about the article or text, where you're just doing a Nacherzählung, like a re-narration or a summary, and then a paragraph where it's just a summary of the infographic or the graph, or when you have one where it's about the listening or the Hörtext. Like, that's not a structure. So that's not persuading anyone. All that's doing is reiterating, re-narrating the Nacherzählungen for the Artikel, Text, oder Grafik, Infografik, oder Hörspiel. So that's not a persuasive essay. The other thing is ein langer Absatz. So just writing one big long paragraph is not anything that's organized. So you're going to want to make sure that you have some sort of organization for your persuasive essay. So think about the 4 Teile bedeuten, aber nicht 4 Absätze. Okay, so 4 parts bedeuten aber nicht 4 Absätze. So the meanings maybe not 4 clauses or sections. So ein Absatz, so one section or passage, should be an Einführung mit These. So your introduction with a thesis statement. So what are you persuading? Yes or no? Are you pro or against? What are you trying to bring people to your cause? Ein Absatz für eins, also ein Absatz ist ein Gegenargument, so das Gegenargument, a counter-argument, refuting what you're trying to prove. So for this, show that you're well-rounded and start with, why shouldn't you do this? It's better to start with that, because then your actual arguments that are later are going to be what the reader's left with. So, so the counter argument, so the opposite, gegen, what's against. Then 3 bis 4 Absätze, so then it might take you 3 to 4 passages or paragraphs with the Argumente. So now what are you trying to persuade people? Like, how is this going to be? Why should you? So if we're using a sample of sollen Schüler Handys in der Schule nutzen? Should students use cell phones in the school? You're saying, well, no, you shouldn't. If that's your thesis statement, then you are Gegenargument is you're going to say, well, yeah, they should. Here's a little bit why. But then you want to have reasons, well, okay, but really they're not great to use in school, and this is why, X, Y, Z. All right. And then finally, have a conclusion. All right. So those are things you're going to want to think about. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just 4 paragraphs. Also, you're writing in German, so it doesn't have to be what you think it is if you can write your great persuasive essay in English. So that's a little bit about organization. All right. Think about these types of sentences, and we're going to be looking at the conjunctions and making sure you watch the word order. So, great sentence starters. Ich denke, ich glaube, ich meine, das. Okay? Subordinating conjunction. Wenn man, wenn ich. So, if, when, once again, subordinating conjunction. So, don't have simple sentences. Make sure you're showing off that you can write longer German sentences. Obwohl, although many people, those are great sentences to include in your Gegenargument. And then, of course, always, weil, because is always a great subordinating conjunction. So we have to watch our word order on those. So think about das, obwohl, weil, when you're looking at persuasive essays. And still thinking about, okay, is this, how many paragraphs? Is this a 5 to 6 paragraph, mini paragraph essay? Okay, other things to think about are transitions. So, erstens, zweitens, drittens, außerdem, zudem, dann, dennoch, jedoch. And then in the conclusion, zum Schluss, or schließlich, alles in allem also. So you could look at writing about our other types of paragraphs and use some of those sentence starters to kind of help you. But transitions are important. Transitions are important not just from paragraph to paragraph, but within paragraphs as well. So when you get to the argument section, I want you to think of drei Bs. Yeah? The Behauptung. What's the statement? What's the claim? The Begründung. What's the reason for this? And then give a Beispiel, an example. So if you were claiming that cell phones should not be used in school because they're a distraction, that would be your statement. They're a distraction. And the reason is students might be on their phones instead of listening in class and learning. And an example would be when a student is on social media instead of learning the lesson or something. So always try to give your arguments with those 3 things included in that paragraph. So that little section. So what's your claim? What are you trying to, what's one reason for your thesis? Then, so the Behauptung, then the reason, like the why or why not, and then give an example. Giving examples is great. What's the Beispiel? So if you're pro, wenn Schüler Handys in der Schule haben, if students have their phones in school, können sie mit den Eltern sprechen. They can speak with their parents. Manchmal haben sie Familiennöte. Sometimes they have family emergencies. Zum Beispiel Hausaufgaben vergessen oder Krankheit or an illness. So simple German, but you're stating it, you're giving a reason, and you have an example. So things to think about. So your Thema, you're answering, make sure you're answering the question. Alle Quellematerialien. You have to make sure that you integrieren und zitieren. You have to integrate and quote from the 3 sources that you have, the text, the graph, and the Hörspiel, the listening. 4 parts to make sure you include the thesis, the counter argument, like your arguments for whatever your stance is, and a conclusion. When you're giving those arguments or counter arguments, especially the arguments, make sure you have your statement with the reason and an example. And then watch out for conjunctions and transitional words to help create more complex sentences. We'll be using this throughout the course of the year. You may also wish to look at other information on the persuasive essays to help you as well. Viel Glück, viel Spaß!